Welcome to the Star Wars customizable card game on Tabletop Simulator. This video will give you a short overview of the most important features. Notice that the first time you load the mod, all images need to be downloaded, which can take quite some time. If you have mod caching enabled in the options, this should be a one-time process, and the next time, the mod should load much quicker. As of October 2024, this mod contains all original cards published by Decipher and all virtual sets released by the player's committee up to and including set 23, and any card listed in the SCOMP link database is included in the mod. Note, however, that the player's committee regularly releases new virtual sets, and therefore it is possible that in the future, these new sets might not be included in the mod. But how do you obtain the playing cards in the first place? There are two tools that let you generate individual cards, booster packs, starter decks, and all cards in a given expansion set. You can even import decks from GEMP or from deck lists that are published on the internet. So, the first tool to accomplish this is the deck import tool. You can use it to import complete decks or individual cards. The deck import tool supports two types of input. The first type are deck lists in GEMP's XML format. In order to import a deck from GEMP, first open your deck in GEMP's deck builder and click on Export Deck. If you are using the original interface of GEMP, this will download a text file. Simply copy the complete content of this text file and paste it into the input field of the deck importer. If you click on the Export Deck button in the new interface of GEMP, a window will appear, which lets you copy and paste the XML formatted deck list directly. Using GEMP's XML format, you can safely ignore the buttons labeled light and dark below the input field. The only relevant switch is the Errata checkbox. If this is checked, corrected versions of cards that have errata are obtained, and otherwise, the original Decipher cards are generated. Once you pasted the deck list into the input field and set the errata checkbox, you simply click the Import Deck button, and your deck will appear. The second input type are deck lists in plain text format, which you can type in manually or copy and paste from different sources on the internet. Since many cards from the light and dark sides of the Force share the same name, it is very important to use the buttons below the input field to indicate whether the deck to be imported is a light or a dark side deck. The names of the cards must be written as in the SCOMP link database. However, case does not matter, and spaces as well as non-alphanumeric characters are ignored, so you don't need to worry about them. The number of desired copies of a card can be specified using a corresponding pre- or postfix, which can optionally be enclosed by parentheses. All lines that cannot be identified as valid card descriptors are ignored. This means, however, that cards may not be recognized and therefore do not appear in the imported deck. It is therefore always a good idea to check the imported deck for completeness and, if cards are missing, to check the spelling and import them again. The first line in the input field is always interpreted as the name of the deck to be imported. If the first line is not the name of the deck, this is not really a problem, but the imported deck might have a strange name in this case. Note that there are some card names that are not unique even for a given side of the Force. Examples are the Tattooing System, or the Altar, and Sense Interrupts. If your deck list contains such cards, the corresponding versions of the card will be placed face up to the right of the deck importer, and you'll have to decide which version you want to include in your deck. Once your deck is imported, it might be a good idea to save it, such that you can load it quickly later on. At first, it is useful to create folders for storing dark and light side decks. To this aim, click on Objects, saved objects and create a folder for your Star Wars CCG decks and subfolders for the light and dark sides. Then right-click on your deck, select Save Object, and store the deck in the corresponding folder. Once you have started the mod and a friend has joined you for play, you can then easily load your deck by clicking on Objects, Saved Objects, navigating to the folder, and dragging your deck onto your playmat. Let's now move on to the second tool, which is the deck generator. You can use this tool to generate booster packs, starter decks, and all cards in a given expansion set. To achieve this, you select in the first drop-down menu the desired expansion set or format, and in the second drop-down menu, you choose the actual product to generate. For example, if you select the Premier set, you have the choice to generate a booster pack, a starter deck, or all the cards in the entire set for the light or dark side of the Force. After you have made your selection in both drop-down menus, simply click the Generate button and the selected product will spawn. Again, there is the checkbox Errata, and if it is set, corrected cards will be generated, while otherwise you will obtain the original Decipher cards. Now that we have some cards, we can start playing. To this aim, the mod provides you with some neat playmats. Simply place your deck on the spot labeled Reserve Deck, and you are ready to go. The playmats include some scripting, and the areas labeled Activate, Use, Recirculate, and Draw are actually buttons that perform the respective action. Your playmat also detects the total number of cards in your life force and displays it for you in the top right corner over the symbol of your allegiance. Furthermore, you can change the image of your playmat by right-clicking somewhere on the empty table and selecting Change Playmat. This will cycle through all available images for your playmat. The mod also provides a number of user-configurable hotkeys, which you can bind by clicking on Options and Game Keys. It is recommended that you bind these hotkeys to your numpad, but you are of course free to choose other bindings. The first four keys, Activate, Use, Recirculate, and Draw, are convenient alternatives to the buttons on the playmats. The next one lets you move a card to your lost pile quickly by hovering the cursor over a card and pressing the hotkey. The next hotkey helps you to place cards neatly aligned underneath other cards, which you will need to do very frequently in this game. First, select the card to put underneath by clicking on it with the left mouse button while holding down the Control key. Then hover your cursor over the card under which you want to place it and press the hotkey. If you want to place multiple cards underneath, first select them by holding down the Control key and clicking on all the cards that you want to place underneath. Then hover the cursor over the card under which the selected card should be placed and press the hotkey. The cards are placed underneath in the order they were selected. Notice that you can move multiple cards that belong together as a group if you select them, for example, by holding down the left mouse button and drawing a selection rectangle around them. Sometimes it may be difficult to recover a card from underneath other ones, and this is what the last hotkey is helping you with. Simply select one or multiple cards to recover from underneath another one by holding down the Control key and clicking on them with the left mouse button. Then hover your cursor over the place where you want the selected cards to be dropped and press the hotkey. When you're playing a game, you might be bothered by the tooltip which shows the name of each card. In this case, you can simply disable it by right-clicking somewhere on an empty space of the table and selecting Toggle Tooltips from the menu that appears. If you want to reactivate the tooltips later, simply repeat this process. If you are new to this game, it is recommended that you start by reading the beginner's rule book, which you can find on the side of the table. On just 6 pages, The beginner's rulebook will give you an overview of the most important rules. Afterward, take a look at the introductory two-player game, which you can find right next to the beginner's rulebook. This sample game is played with the premier introductory two-player deck, which you can easily construct for the light and dark sides using the deck generator. Replay the game while you read through the description and see the rules in action. Afterward, you may play some games with these pre-constructed introductory two-player decks, but after that, it is recommended that you move on and use the demo decks from the player's committee, which you also obtain from the deck generator. These decks provide you with a more modern approach to the game, and you will learn how the game is played today. If you are a more seasoned player and you would like to play sealed deck or similar formats, let me give you some advice on how you could do this using this mod. Of course, at first you need to decide which resources you want to use to build your deck. Let's, for example, use the official tournament sealed deck, which you can find in the deck generator. Once you have generated the resources, use the zone tool in order to draw a sufficiently large hidden zone on your side of the table and move your resources inside this zone. Your opponent will now be unable to see the cards inside that zone, and you can safely construct your deck. If you find the color tint of the hidden zone distracting, you could either reduce the opacity of the zone by a simple command in the log window, or you can use the gizmo tool to increase the scale of the hidden zone along the y-axis, such that it is easy to place your camera inside the zone. It might also be useful to create a sufficiently large layout zone inside your hidden zone, which helps you to lay out your cards in a neatly aligned fashion. Click on the Layout zone with the left mouse button to edit its properties. In the Layout tab, reduce the horizontal and vertical padding to 0, and in the Groups tab, change Objects per Group to 1. Then drop your cards into the Layout zone, and they will be laid out and aligned neatly, which will make it easy for you to build your deck. If you are very strict, you can also use a timer for the deck construction phase. An easy-to-use timer already comes bundled with Tabletop Simulator, and you can find it in Objects, Components, Tools. Simply drag and drop it from there to the game table, then right-click on it, and enter the time that you want to allow for deck construction. Once you are done building your deck, place it on your playmat and erase the cards and resources that are no longer needed. Delete the hidden zone and the layout zone by selecting the respective zone tool, hovering the cursor over the zones, and pressing the delete key. Now you are ready to play the game with your constructed deck. This mod also comes with the resources needed to play Watto's Chance Cube. This format is, however, intended to be played by 4 or more players. Therefore, I would like to provide you with some ideas on how you can play this format with only 2 people. First, determine who plays the light and who plays the dark side at random and move yourself to the corresponding seat. Then use the deck constructor to generate the fixed cards for the light and dark sides of the force and give them to the corresponding player. Generate the draw pool for the light and the dark side and give each of them a good shuffle. Decide how many cards each player should obtain from the draw pool in order to use them for deck construction. For example, if you decide to take 55 cards, which seems to be a reasonable number, right-click on the draw pool to cut 55 cards from the top and take them. Afterward, you can delete the rest of the draw pool since it is no longer needed. Now use the 10 fixed cards and the 55 random cards to construct your 45 card deck. If you want to play with the objective expansion instead of the fixed cards, use the deck generator to spawn the objective expansion for each side of the force. Then right-click on the objective expansion bags and shuffle them. Draw 3 objective packs from the bag of your allegiance and select 2 of them to keep, returning the 3rd one to the bag. You can then construct your deck from the 2 objective packs and the random cards from the draw pool. That should be all you need to know to play the Star Wars customizable card game on Tabletop Simulator. If you have any questions or ideas to improve the mod, just write me in the comments below. Have fun playing, and most importantly, may the Force always be with you.